a lot was learned from the process, but it was always at the back of my mind. It was always kind of sitting there talking to me and always asking myself, okay, what's good here? What could we take to a new place and make it better? Having that person to give you that one-on-one experience and taking you through, look, truffles are complex. They're different flavor profiles, as you know, and you cannot retail something like that without a story. There's a lot of heartbreak in the truffle hunting industry.
Wow.
And people don't know that. People don't know the passion that is required to go out there in the dirt, in the muck. If it's raining, if it's sunny, if it's hot, it doesn't matter. They're out there every morning.
Welcome back to the ChefJKP Podcast. And on the show today, we have the co-founder of the incredible Truffle House, Mihai Florescu. Mihai, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having me.
First things first ever or favorite childhood food memory?
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting one. So, well, talking about that without considering where I come from is pretty much impossible, because I was born in communist Romania. Not much was around before I was 4 or 5 years old, but I do clearly remember my liver pate on toast with tea in the morning before school. That's stuck for sure.
So tell us more in details. What type of liver was it? Was it soft? Was it how the taste, the flavor? What was it that you really loved about it?
So consider everything was homemade, right? We had very little in the supermarket, and it was this pork liver pate that you could buy in a can, and it was spreadable. But my parents used to buy bread from a local baker, and it wasn't sliced or anything, and we would just put it in the oven, toast it a little bit, make it warm, spread the pate, and it was savory. But then you'd have it with sweet tea, which is weird, because again in Romania, everything is sweet. Everything has to be sweet. The coffee, the tea, everything. And it was just this sweet and savory mix before school, and it's just the flavor that sticks with you.
Wow! So it's kind of like a sweet and sour power bomb before you went to school, kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Meat on toast, protein, carbs, sugar, overload.
Everything that a kid needs.
Absolutely.
So it's fine. But then, what were the types of food you had growing up?
Yes, well, again, it's easy to remember your childhood through your food or interaction with food. And I remember going to my grandparents' house in the rural Romania, middle of nowhere, and picking my own tomatoes and cucumbers. And I still remember being sent to collect the eggs from the chickens and the chicken coop. And it was all so fresh and so handmade. And that left a lasting impression on me. It was something that I always looked towards going back to. It's cool to have the convenience now and, the supermarkets and everything, but it's nice when you're little and you chased around by the rooster, or it's such a raw experience.
But I think also I just talking to a chef recently that those types of experiences are very rare these days.
Absolutely.
That you at the time as a child you probably hated collecting the eggs, or you were like why am I doing the gardening, all of that kind of stuff. So some chefs wanted to play instead of doing that, but now they're saying they wish they could have done it for a lot longer.
Absolutely.
Because it's all about the family and reminiscing. So when you were with your grandparents, what were the types of meals that they would cook?
Everything was very, very simple. So comparing to what we experience now in restaurants with layering different flavor profiles and textures, and none of that. So you pretty much ate what you raised and what you grew. The meat was from there. They had, fresh milk, fresh cheese. As I said, fruits and vegetables. There was a fruit tree pretty much everywhere you looked. And there wasn't much of a choice. You had to do it. So it's not like you could compare with anything else. You couldn't run to the supermarket because you didn't want to go and pick the vegetable garden. That was it.
So would you be, would they sort of get their harvest, and then because Romania has 4 seasons, would they do a lot of the sort of pickling and that sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you have what was the main ingredient that they would pickle for, like the winter, for example?
Well, everything you can't keep. So everything can be pickled. Look, we pickle watermelon. I mean, it's weird, but it does happen.
Must be nice, though.
It is nice. It's sour and it's crunchy and it's sweet when you bite into it. And you eat the peel as well because you pickle it in the peel.
Okay.
Yeah. But your usual suspect, your sauerkraut, your cucumbers, and we actually pick the tomatoes green before they ripen fully, and then you pickle that with cauliflower and red cabbage. So you get this pink juice the juice itself is really good. Throw in a few carrots, and that's your salad really in winter.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, but I think that's super cool, no?
It is nice, yeah.
To do all that.
Look, my parents still do it today. I mean, and make no mistake, I'm a city boy. I wasn't raised in the countryside, but we still do it. We still do it because it's number one, healthier than what you get in the supermarket, and that's a very, very big one for us. And number two, it's super convenient. My parents have a space that my wife actually calls a bomb shelter. It is where all the pickles live, and it's where the meats get cured, and we still make our own sausages and all of that.
Oh, wow. So also the temperatures must be optimum for the pickling, the meats, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So then, growing up, after your sort of teenage years, when it comes to your education, did you go down a specific food route, or was there something else in your mind?
No. So I'm a bit of a storyteller myself. I never liked numbers. Funny because I need them now. But I always wanted to work in marketing. I always wanted to create adverts and be be a part of the cool kids and the cool gang that was creative and the forward thinking. And I actually graduated marketing. My specialization in university is marketing, and I wanted to go that route, but I think I was hijacked along the way.
In what way?
I pursued a completely different path, and I was living in Bucharest, and I was actually doing my master's in advertising and public speaking. And that's a 2-year program, but halfway through, after year 1, an opportunity came for me to move to Dubai and join the airline industry. And, I thought that's great. I wanted to leave Romania. I wanted to leave what I knew and experience whatever Dubai had to offer. I knew exactly one person in Dubai, knew nobody, didn't think about it too much, just phoned my parents, and I said, look, I'm going for the interview. And done. 3 months later, I was in Dubai, and I was working in aviation. Who would have thought?
So, but you finished the degree first, right?
No, I didn't. Halfway through, I just left school.
Wow.
Yeah, I just left, and I thought, Dubai is an opportunity.
But it was a massive opportunity.
It was good, of course. I mean, it was good because it brought the exposure that otherwise, when you stay put, you don't see much. And I never liked that. I never liked talking about the same thing and, being in the same place. And then when Dubai came along, not to mention that Dubai was Dubai, even then, this is 2011, it was a great opportunity. So I said, why not? Let me do this for a couple of years, 2-3 years, do a contract, and then carry on with my own thing. And 9 years later, I got into my own business.
So what was the biggest key factors that you learned whilst you were in the aviation industry?
Look, it's very, very clear to me that I've always had this entrepreneurial spirit. So whenever I went to a new place, I experienced it through, or I would rather say I asked myself two questions. And number one was, could I live here? Because I knew I was never interested in going back to Romania. So I thought, could I live here? Is the culture good for me? The food, the people, the drinks. And number two was, okay, what can I take from here with me in terms of a business or, a way of doing things? So I always looked at all the places that I've seen, and I've seen quite a few. I was lucky in that way. And this is the biggest thing that I took out of the experience with the airline. In 2017, I traveled to Seychelles for the first time, and I found this rum called Takamaka, and I loved it. I loved it because I experienced it in a way, and this is key. I was on the beach, sipping on rum, and talking to the people, and it's Seychelles. Come on, it's amazing. And I thought, okay, well, this is the experience that I could take with me to Romania, for example. So in 2017, I started my first company, and I started importing Takamaka rum from the Seychelles into Romania. So I could say that, a lot was learned from the process, but it was always at the back of my mind. It was always kind of sitting there talking to me and always asking myself, okay, what's good here? What could we take to a new place and make it better?
And it's also one of the most sort of beautifully flavored rums you could have. It's got a beautiful floral taste about it, and it's got that coconut hint, and it's not too strong.
Absolutely. And it's not just that. It's not just the product. It's never just the product. I got to meet the founders, one of the brothers, and he was an amazing guy. Went to his house, met his family, met his kids, and we kept returning to the Seychelles 3-4 times a year as a friend. We connected with the people. We knew the story behind the rum. The rum was great. I mean, anything small batch is good. But it was just the whole story that enabled easy communication on the other side. Because whenever I went to Romania to talk about this product, it wasn't just a liquid. It wasn't just what was in the bottle. It wasn't just a label. It was the provenance. It was Seychelles. It was the story. It was, Bernard and his family and how the recipe of the rum transpired through 3-4 generations. That's the story. And this is what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in just a product. You can't talk to people. You can't get people passionate about just a product.
So then, after dealing with Takamaka, how did truffles come into the picture?
Oh, easy, because, often with a drink, you need to have something good to eat. So I was in Romania the one time, speaking to one of my distributors, one of my retail partners, and they operated a small gourmet store, like you would imagine, bit of everything. And there was a bit of a tasting element to it, but there was a truffle section. And I love truffle, obviously. And then I said, let me bring my wife. She's from South Africa, completely different culture, different way of looking at things. And I just took her into that store without saying anything, without mentioning any idea. And I clearly remember us walking into that store, going to that tasting station, and just looked at each other and we literally said, Dubai. Because we struggle finding good quality truffle products in Dubai at that point. And again, it's not just a product. If I wouldn't know truffles, I wouldn't know what to choose. And very likely I would follow the path of least resistance, which is an easy truffle oil or, whatever flavor hijack you can think of. But having that person to give you that one-on-one experience and taking you through, look, truffles are complex. They're different flavor profiles, as you know, and you cannot retail something like that without a story. Again, and 3 months later, we were in Italy. We're discussing with our supplier, and 6 months later, Truffle House LLC was done.
So when you formed the company, it was just based from home, or you had a physical site?
We launched a company with an online. What a story! We started online. We put our resources. Look, this is a company that was started with whatever we had. No investors, no big money behind it. Or we started online. Then there was an opportunity to go and open a physical brick and mortar across the street from the Dubai Mall in downtown Kitchens. We signed the contract. Then COVID hit.
But you already signed the contract?
Yes.
Did you already pay up front?
We paid whatever was due up front. So we had money stuck in it, of course.
Right.
But then the whole project was delayed for, I think, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are now with a company and products here on the market, because we brought products to open the store. And we're stuck. And in COVID, we were running like crazy. We had a little deal with a warehouse here in Dubai. We'd go and pick up the products, pack it ourselves in the warehouse. One would drive, one would deliver. It was just a bit of a struggle initially. And then as things started opening up, we started doing these pop-ups. We had a pop-up in Festival City Mall for a month. Then we had another collaboration with a place called Culture House in Jumeirah. Amazing people at Culture House. And we were doing a bit of retail. So we could finally get to tell the story and talk to people and taste the products and do it properly. Do it as Truffle House was intended to be done. And yeah, that was the early days, growing pains.
But I wanted to ask you, Mihai, from because obviously you've got this entrepreneurial spirit. You're into stories, which obviously goes back to what you wanted to do initially, which was the marketing and advertising. From all of the food products in the world, why truffles? Because it's such a niche market, number one. And some people would say it's a top-end product.
Absolutely.
Right? But why, for yourself in particular, why truffles?
So, again, when you think of truffles, you generally think of this mythical mushroom, this product that is never seen in physical form, in real form. Everybody thinks truffle products, which is fine. But the application of truffles and the way you can use truffles is so wide, and you're not limited to a pasta, or you're not limited to an Italian dish. You're not limited to one single thing that you can do with truffle. And again, going back, truffles are found in Romania. But Romania doesn't have, and I know I'll upset a few of my friends, but doesn't have a culinary identity per se. I mean, we can talk about polenta, but we'll get into a fight with Italians pretty quick.
It's okay.
But again, I knew the mushroom. I knew the product. And then when we thought of bringing this to a store that is dedicated to truffles, it was with the experience in mind. So we believe in excellence in service delivery. We believe in the way of presenting this product to market. You say it's a niche, and yes, it is to a certain extent. But we took that niche, we got into that niche, and we started pushing outwards. So it's partly because we wanted to show people and prove that truffles are not, they don't come on a silver platter or on a cushion. Or you go to Italy, or you go to France, or you go to northern Spain, and they're right there on the table in a basket, and people can just pick it up, grate it or slice it over their cooked meal, and it's just an ingredient. Expensive, but it's an ingredient. And this is what we wanted to bring to the market. Dubai is also the place, because then you have all of these cuisines, and all of these people that have never thought of adding that flavor profile and that ingredient to their normal meals. I mean, the best truffles are enjoyed over and over easy fried egg. It's as easy as that.
So you established yourself in Dubai, obviously through quite a difficult time, 2020. But now you have a incredibly lucrative business. You're based in not one, but two premier world-class malls. Now, if I've never ever been to the Truffle House, walk me through the experience as a guest.
Absolutely. So we have what we call a 3-question approach to customers, obviously given time available. But when you come to Truffle House, we don't jump into recommending a product. We don't jump into telling you, hey, we do truffles. No. We first have to understand your exposure and experience with truffles. So number one is, have you been here before? Have you been to our stores? Do you know what we do? Have you been into our tasting room or tasting bar? Number two is, do you like truffles? Because that's a key question. If people don't like truffles, then we may have a few products for you.
It sounds a very obvious question to ask, right?
It is, and it's very, very important, because then we go into, I'll get into that, the truffle intensities that we have. And number three is, do you cook? Because again, cooking experience and your time spent in the kitchen, again, is an informative answer that will drive the journey in the store. So say you cook, you like truffles, and you've never been there before, right? Then our stores are usually divided into 3 sections. We have the obvious truffle section, where we have 25, 30 SKUs at any given point. And we have a mix of condiments, creams, sauces, specialties, different truffle intensities. So if you don't like truffle, or you kind of think you like truffles, we'll start from low and we'll progress from there and see where you kind of stand. It's almost like a perfume shop. You go and you don't jump into smelling the strongest, most potent thing, the smallest bottle. You go slow. Another section is our snacks area, where we have our own locally made popcorn with truffle, and we have a range of nuts. And we are about to launch a new product very, very soon. So we try to have a complementary range of snacks, because, hey, truffles and chips, they work. And then we have a deli, what we call a deli section, where we retail fine cheeses and cold cuts. Again, Truffle House, yes, it is a truffle store, but it's an aperitivo store. So we do encourage a way of eating, a lifestyle, an easier approach. You walk into Truffle House, you can get your cheeses that you like, and we have a lot of truffle cheese. You can get your truffles, you can get your crackers, you can get your snacks, you can get your meats, and that's your aperitivo board or sharing board. What you buy in Truffle House is not designed to be consumed alone. So again, we're very, very interested in the social aspect of cooking and eating. And again, the most important thing is that we have a tasting room. So again, going back to my experience with truffles in Romania, there was that one-on-one. There was that place where I could go and ask all the questions that people, might think they are dumb, but no, of course not. We take you through it. We take you through the journey. We explain what truffles are, where they come from, what they look like. We retail fresh truffles, and it's probably the only place in Dubai where you can buy fresh truffles in a mall. And there's a seasonality aspect attached to it as well. So there's always something new. There's always something that's in the pipeline, whether product development or a truffle that's in season then. But it's a whole journey. It's a whole tasting experience. You can mix and match and pair and, again, layer flavor profiles.
So if I'm a complete novice and I've never tasted truffles before. I've smelt maybe a truffle oil here and there. How would you advise me when it comes to actually truffles? What am I looking for to make sure that these are legitimate?
Oh, the question of legitimacy. Truffles are they're found in the wild, and they're also farmed. You can, when by farm truffles, I mean, yes, you plant the trees, you make sure that you have the microelements in the soil, and it's a mushroom. You plant the spore, the mycelia, and then you hope they will grow eventually. But ultimately, there's no way to have 100% traceability of your truffles. It is virtually impossible. If you go back to Italy, say, where they come from, where people know they come from mostly, what you can do as a supplier or retailer is to ensure that your network of truffle hunters is legit and it's tight. So there are a few policies that we have in place. Like, we run our truffles through metal detectors. We had instances when we found metal pellets in the truffles, and it's just to weigh them down. And the whole industry of truffles is very, very complicated.
When you say complicated, explain to me that further so I understand.
Truffles come from Europe. They come from North America, they come from Australia, and they're very good quality. But also come from Iran, China. And again, the quality of a truffle has to do mainly with the environment where they grow, the amount of rain that you get, but also with what you spray on the ground. So if you spray the forest and you harvest them in an area that's very, very polluted, and obviously the quality is not the same as going into a natural forest in all of these other places and picking up a good mushroom. But when I say complicated, I mean, again, glue pellets inside the truffles.
Just crazy.
Little stones, metal pellets. That's why it's very, very important to work with truffle hunters and work with a supply chain that guarantees transparency as much as possible. The people that we work with in Italy and northern Spain, look, we've been working with them for over 5 years. We know them personally. We take all the measures that we can to make sure that the truffles are very good quality. Again, it's a mushroom that can be harvested when it's underripe, ripe, or overripe. And again, the timing it has to be perfect in order to deliver that aroma and the flavor and the smell and all of that.
But there's a lot of trust involved also with your suppliers.
Absolutely.
Because it's a very competitive business. It can be dangerous.
It is, yeah.
So you have to really understand and know the supplier or the farmers, the hunters, very, very well. How do you build those relationships?
It takes time. It just takes time. You have to try. You have to pay people on time. You have to establish a very healthy commercial relationship, and I think that's where it all starts. Look, it's a chain. It's a chain. If one link goes missing, it's gone. It's broken. So you go into this business with integrity. Eventually, it will come back to you. Just make sure that what you promise is what happens. But again, people are not genuinely there to trick you. I don't believe that people are out there to sell you rocks instead of truffles. But when there's scarcity, people become creative, right? So again, picking truffles or harvesting truffles that are underripe, be the first to the market, is an advantage, perceived advantage, but you go through a lot of clients. I'm talking from a harvester perspective, because you'll probably sell once to those people. But again, there's integrity, there's commercial guarantees, and time.
Because look, excuse me. The other thing I wanted to sort of understand is that let's be very clear. You have the mushrooms that are grown in the ground, or the truffles, right? So they're harvested by the dogs, truffle hunters, whatever. And then as soon as they're picked from the ground, there is a certain shelf life.
Absolutely.
So what is that shelf life from the time they are physically picked to by the time they get from Italy, Bulgaria, Spain, wherever, to then them coming to your customs and then going to the customer? Because that's key, right?
Absolutely. So different truffles have different shelf lives. Generally, black truffles, whether winter black or summer black, they take longer before they get soft and rubbery. White truffles, they expire quicker. But we try to build a 72-hour link. So they get harvested, or we get the freshest batch, let's call it that.
Okay.
Because a lot of these truffles will go into production of truffle products. That's a different part of the industry. So there will never be a truffle that goes unused in Italy. But when we place an order, we usually place an order for a future delivery. We place an order in advance, and we get the freshest batch, but roughly 72 hours.
Okay.
So we're looking at about 3-4 days max.
So that's a quick turnover.
Yes,
right?
It has to be.
So as I mentioned previously, if I'm looking at different types of truffles per se, what are the sort of key takeaways that I need to, or visually, apart from the smell, which can smash you in the face if it's really beautiful, or if it's not beautiful, there's no smell at all. What are the key things I need to look for when I'm being guided to look for beautiful truffles?
Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is feel the truffle. It has to be firm. The moment they get a bit older, they become gummy.
Okay, so if they're gummy, then no good, or they're good for a paste or something like that.
You can use them in products,
or olive oil or infusions,
absolutely.
Anything like that.
The aroma is still there, so you can still use that, but you won't have the same fresh experience when you slice it or grate it, right? So it's a little bit overripe, and then when it's gone, you'll see green mold forming on it. You'll see it pretty much rotting. Now consider that truffles lose weight every day. It's a mushroom. A mushroom is made out of water, essentially. So as they age, they dry, they dehydrate. So again, for a product that's sold per weight, per kilo, you're losing value every day. You want to move those products as quick as possible. But going back to your question, they have to be firm. Otherwise, when you put it through a slicer, you'll get that rubbery texture that is not pleasant.
Okay, so they need to be firm, first of all. Then aroma, how should that be? How strong should that be?
Again, depending on different types of truffles, but summer truffles are, I would say, the on the lower range in terms of flavor and smell. But when you go into a winter black truffle or a white truffle, you should have that kick. You should have that round, earthy, nutty smell.
And that should punch you in the face
That
straight
should
away,
punch you
right?
straight away. A white truffle will almost have a garlicky tint to it. A lot of people will smell garlic in a white truffle.
So then the age-old question for those people who don't know, in the season of when the white truffles are around, why are they so expensive?
Scarcity. So white truffles, good quality white truffles, have yet to be farmed industrially. You can't get volumes.
So they're completely natural. They're not farmed at all.
95% wild. So again, I'm talking about a good quality, clean truffle.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to go around, and the season's very, very short, and it's getting shorter and shorter every year.
And what is the season for people who don't know?
In Europe, it's winter, so you would look at mid-November if you're lucky to mid-February, I would say.
That's just a very short season.
It's a narrow window. And you need rain, you need temperature, you need quality soil, you need people to go out there and find them. Now, look, again, Italy's not the only truffle exporter. You have other countries. There's not enough volume of white truffle to supply the actual demand. So that drives the price.
Because also, I mean, if I think about it, as you said, there not only do you have the best fine dining restaurants in the world wanting these truffles or these pieces of gold, but you also mentioned previously in another conversation that we've had is that there are auctions.
Absolutely.
And what type of auctions happen for these truffles?
Let's say that the crown jewels of truffles are those big, clean, untouched, and when I say big, I mean 900 grams a kilo single pieces. Those are very rare. They don't come around often. As you can imagine, white truffles are harvested small 50, 100 gram, 200 gram pieces. But those big ones, yes, they go on. Those are the truffles that go on a velvet cushion. And there are auctions. There's a yearly Alba auction, and around the world, and people actually bid for those. We're talking about big money.
Give me some numbers so we understand.
So a truffle like that can go between 75 to 150,000 euros easily.
For a kilo?
For the single piece. Those pieces are not sold per weight, they're sold per piece.
Per piece.
So if the market price, again, truffles are a commodity, right? So the price changes every week, given harvest and demand. And now if you have a 1 kilo single piece, that will not be put on a scale and you pay the market price per kilo. That is a rarity. That is something that you pay per piece for the actual truffle. And then you have people from all over the world that will join in either an online auction or a physical auction. And again, I'm talking about big bucks. A lot of people that do that. I think a couple of years ago, there was an auction in Alba where a customer from Hong Kong had his private jet on the runway because he knew he would pay as much as it takes for that single truffle. And that truffle was flown to Hong Kong from Italy directly after the auction. That's the industry.
That's crazy, huh?
That's the industry.
And again, so let's say I've paid 200,000 euro for a truffle. How much of that is going to the truffle hunter? How much of that is going on commission, so on and so forth? So it is super lucrative, I can imagine.
Absolutely. But again, if you look at any farming practice, unfortunately, the farmers, the hunters, get the lowest rate.
Yeah, which is crazy because those are the guys who worked for it.
Yes.
And know where to go, so on and so forth. But it's
incredible to meet those people as well, because truffle hunting goes back in the family for generations. These people know only one thing, and that is to take their dogs, and again, the relationship with those dogs, and the way those dogs are become a part of the family.
And the land. You have to know the land.
You have to know the land.
As a forager. You have to know when it's raining, the conditions. I mean, there's a million things.
You have to keep an eye out for snakes. You have to protect your dogs. You have to... look, truffle hunting is dangerous, as you said earlier. They're very ugly practices of leaving poison here and there for other people's dogs. So there's a lot of heartbreak in the truffle hunting industry.
Wow.
And people don't know that. People don't know the passion that is required to go out there in the dirt, in the muck, if it's raining, if it's sunny, if it's hot, it doesn't matter. They're out there every morning.
But it's also like a real dark side. There is to that.
There is
to being so competitive in an industry where you feel that you have to almost murder part of the family.
But what's great about it is that Italy, and I'm going back to Italy because they are the country that takes the most action and the most steps towards regulating truffle hunting. And there's a lot that is happening now in terms of promoting, legal procedures to protecting land, to protecting hunting grounds, truffle hunting grounds. And
so Italy in particular, the government has recognized that.
Italy has truffle hunters associations that come together and, get around the table and put forward legislation. And that's great. That's great. And it should happen.
Because as you quite rightly said, you have Iran, you have China, Bulgaria, Romania,
Croatia,
Spain,
Montenegro.
Croatia. Yeah, so
absolutely.
All of these countries, they have truffles, but also they're not necessarily as vocal as the Italians.
No, they're exporters of raw material, but they never claimed it. And it's impossible to claim it. It's impossible to put your finger on it. It's impossible to say, hey, we were here first. What we know is that truffles have been on people's tables for 2,000 years. But nobody can put a finger on it and say, hey, it was us. But the way you claim your stake as a truffle producer or as a truffle exporter is by putting in place legislation and transparency and investing in product development. And yes, that you can claim. And Italy has been absolutely phenomenal at it.
But you yourself, which markets are the ones that you sort of source from predominantly?
So our truffle products come exclusively from Italy. Okay. We work with a single supplier. And you have to go back to that trust question from earlier. We've been there. We've seen the factory. We know them personally. We know their family. We have a relationship that goes back years. And we trust their quality of raw materials, their production facilities, their processes, their recipes. And as Truffle House and as an owner, co-founder, I am very, very careful with what I put forward for my customers. I am very, very particular about sourcing clean products. Yes, there is an aroma element, less than 0.1% for consistency in flavor profile, but we try to source products that are as clean and as minimally processed as possible.
But do you go to other markets? So, for example, and I'm specifically talking about the truffles.
Fresh truffles.
Fresh truffles.
Absolutely.
So not only Italian, where else would you find them?
We work with a few people from the north of Spain. We work with people in France. We work with people in Eastern Europe, in Romania, Serbia, Croatia. We work with a lot of countries for fresh truffles. And it's, again, because Italy alone cannot produce volumes to cover everybody's demand.
Of course. But then, so when it comes to your customer base, are you doing mainly sort of housewives, people who want truffles, or are you dealing with restaurants and chefs?
Both. So Truffle House was started as a retail experience. We like to say that we do truffles without the white gloves. So it's an ingredient. It is retail heavy. We are a retail company. We're focused on the end consumer. We're focused on whatever you cook at home. But we do supply restaurants. We were approached by chefs. We were approached by restaurant managers. And again, it goes back to the quality of the product. So we cover, I would say, both sides of the industry, 70-30%.
But anyone can walk into your store and do a tasting.
Absolutely. We actually bring chefs to our tasting room or tasting bar now in Dubai Mall because it's the best place to experience our products.
And that's exactly what it is, right? It's an experience first.
It is.
Because then the nice thing is that you're not being aggressive when it comes to the hard sell. You're actually saying, look, this is what we have. We can guide you through so on and so forth. And by the end, we can have a conversation.
it's very important for us to transfer that whole decision-making process from us as a retailer to the customer. Again, food waste is a big problem in the world. I don't want people to come into my shop and choose a product because it looks good in a jar, and then they open it at home, it is not what they're looking for, and it ends up in the bin. That doesn't do anybody a service. So there's a complete transfer. Yes, we can guide you, we can teach you, we can explain to you, but ultimately it's your decision alone to find that flavor profile that works for you.
So, Mihai, if I was also, let's say, price conscious when it comes to the different truffles, do you have sort of different price points for different restaurants or different customers?
Obviously, retail sales come with overheads, so we have to have that in mind. We're a business, but we are very fairly priced. So the whole aim of Truffle House is to bring products from Italy or from Europe or from anywhere really to Dubai to a price as close as possible to their origin.
Oh wow! Okay.
So we do everything in house. So our logistics is in house, our warehouse is in house, delivery. We have our own vans, our own drivers, and we build a complete supply chain. The more you externalize, the more you outsource, the higher your costs. So the whole point of Truffle House is to bring these products to a price point similar to what you would find them at in Europe. And we managed to achieve that. We managed to be fairly priced.
But also, I love the fact that you can actually walk into the store, taste everything, not necessarily buy there and then, but then have a think about it, come back. And as well as that, not only you have these beautiful cheeses, you have the meats, you have the chips. So it's a real sort of unique selling point that you have for the brand. Because also it's not easy, because you could have just done truffles and truffle products. But also, why did you also decide to go down the route of cheeses and the aperitivo boards?
They're complementary products. So if you walk into the store and you don't know if you like truffles, maybe you've never tried truffles, there's always something that I can pair with a truffle product to show you the flavor profile, to show you the application, to show you the use of the product. We're not per se trying to cross-sell. We're not trying to increase the basket. We are trying to create a complete offering. So when you go home with a piece of cheese that you like, let's take an example. We have a really nice blue cheese. Very, very particular, very buttery. We pair that with a truffle honey. And I'm taking truffle honey as an example because it's a bit weird. It's sweet and it's earthy and smoky, but you don't really know what it is. But that pairing together is an experience. And you come into our tasting room and you can try that. You can try that pairing. We won't give you a truffle honey that you then have to decide what to do with. We will show you what it is good for. We will show you what it goes well with. That you leave Truffle House better informed. You leave Truffle House and you'll go to your friends and you'll be the connoisseur. You'll be the person. You'll be the guy who experienced this. And we firmly believe that this is the future of top shelf retail, top shelf products.
Well, absolutely. And not only that, if I take it from the perspective of the chef or the restaurateur, the nice thing is that I can come to you, I can have the experience, I can gain knowledge, I can literally taste everything straight away, and then boom, I know for my business, this is what I require. At the same time, I'm building, again, that relationship with you to say, listen, this is what I need, can you help me, so on and so forth. So it's a really rounded experience from an F&B perspective.
Absolutely. And James, we have chefs that, we have chefs who come into the store or phone us and they know exactly what they want. And that's great. I mean, you know the dish, you're probably trained and you have experience, but there's also young chefs. People who phone us and say, my management requires a truffle dish. I don't know what to do. So then it's easier for me to bring that person into my tasting room and just lay it all out and say, okay, sure. What's your cuisine? What do you cook? What's your cooking style? Because we're specialists. So people come to us as specialists. And it's very easy for someone who is less trained or less experienced as a chef to come and get creative.
But I think that's also such a wonderful thing to also have younger professionals come in, say, look, please, can you help us out? Because that's also such a phenomenal educational part of the industry that we don't necessarily talk about.
So let me tell you a story. We take part in Taste of Dubai every year. And as you know, there's that culinary aspect, that live cooking aspect, and the Dubai Culinary School is involved there. And every single year, we have a moment, 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, where 10, 15 of these young chefs who are in school right now come to our stand, and you see their faces. You see them trying all of these products, and they come from different backgrounds. They're in school. They're just dipping their toes into the guild, the industry, and they try these products, and you see that spark. You see that aha moment. And for me, this is the motivation. I see that in customers who come into a tasting room and try a product, and they go, oh, hold on, this is for dinner tonight because I'm doing this, this, and this. But you also see it in these young chefs, and it's amazing because before we came to the market, there was no opportunity to expose yourself to that, for free or without going out of your way. And we love doing that. We love seeing people, going through that experience and lighting up.
But it's amazing because you don't just do it in Taste of Dubai, you also do it within your stores. So the other question that I'm particularly interested in for you obviously been in the region for some time. You are well-traveled. How do you see the future of dining within the GCC?
Well, that's a good question. That's a very good question. So I think we have positioned ourselves, and me running the business, in a very good vantage point. We see both sides. We see the restaurant back end, we see the cooking process, and we see the consumer process. And generally, these two conversations meet in our store and through our experience with customers. I think, look, Dubai is, from a culinary or restaurant offering perspective, Dubai is phenomenal. It's right up there. But the more restaurants engage with local supply, local suppliers, actual people, the better it is. There is very little difference of what we've seen between high-end restaurants. Yes, fit out, sure. Some restaurants look better than others. Some have better music. Some have better chefs. Some are priced better. But all of these competitive advantages, they're blurry. They meet at some point with other venues. I think that the future and a special consideration should go towards the ingredients. If I would sit in a restaurant now and I would be presented with a menu that says, hey, let's take a burrata salad, the easiest thing. And the menu would tell me, these tomatoes now come from Dubai because it's the season and whatever reason. But in 3 months, they will come from Spain because they're in season in Spain. And I have to go back to my childhood and the seasons that you mentioned. It's abnormal to have everything available all the time. It's abnormal. Yes, 2024 supply chain, sure. But go back to ingredients. Go back to saying, these oysters that you put in front of me have been farmed 2 days ago because they come from right here. Go back to that customer and explain why your menu item is not available. Because they're not in season. But we've replaced it with this that is in season. And again, everybody has to work out their own supply chains and all that. But I think any conversation should start with efficiency in supply chain, of course. It has to make commercial sense, absolutely. But not with price point. Not with price point. What we've seen is that people pay. People are ready to pay. You go to a restaurant and you know that restaurant will feed you good food in a good environment. I'm ready to pay.
Happily as well.
Happily. But be honest. Be honest about it. And it doesn't have to become ruthless. Restaurants and the food, the dining industry did not start from a competitive edge conversation. It started from a hospitality conversation. It started from, come and sit at my table, I'll cook for you, I'll entertain you, I'll have a conversation with you, and you'll go home happy.
That's what hospitality is all about.
That's hospitality. So, obviously, I'm out all the time, and we go to all of these new restaurants, and we have friends in the industry, and I feel like we're moving further and further away from the conversation about food, the conversation about ingredients. We deploy financial resources into, as I said, fit out, and that's great. I mean, that's great. You have to look good. But there's a disproportion and a widening gap between the resources that you put into a visual aspect and what you're actually there for.
On
you
the plate.
Cook for people. That's your selling point, is the plate. So let's talk about ingredients. Let's talk about sourcing. Let's talk about flavors in a different way.
I think that's a fantastic point, because you're absolutely right. In this day and age, especially here where we are, there is a lot of show. Whether it's in the fit out, in the restaurant, whether it's a cabaret, whatever it may be, and less on the plate when it comes to delivery of ingredient. So that's I believe is a fantastic point to talk about, and I do agree very strongly on that.
Well, I will ask you a question on that. Would you rather, as a chef and as a restaurant operator, would you rather have one-hit wonders, people who come to your place once or twice for the gold that you have, the gold rim on your plate, or have a customer base that comes in, enjoys your food? Would you not rather have a repeat business? And I have a restaurant in mind. I often travel to Barcelona, and there's a small little hole in the wall. It's called El Champagnet. It is relevant and memorable in terms of hospitality and service delivery. They open at 12, they close at 3 for siesta, of course, in Spain. They open again in the afternoon, and people queue. But what's interesting about it is that it's the same people queuing. It's the people living upstairs above the restaurant. It's the people who every Thursday or every Friday or every Saturday go to the same place, sit at the same table, eat the same food. Because if I were a restaurant, I would choose that. I would love that. I would love to see that my people come to me. And this is my customer base. And this is who I cook for. This is who I know by first name. I know the kids. I know it's difficult in Dubai because of the melting pot, because of the cultures, because of the transit. It's difficult. But it's valuable if you manage to create that.
Absolutely, Mihai. And look, we've had many restaurateurs, chefs, business owners mention the same thing, that success to them is exactly what you just mentioned. It's not about the Michelin stars and all these sort of things or accolades. It's about repeat customers coming back week in, week out because they're delivering a fantastic product. They feel comfortable, like they're coming to their second home. And it's what we also discussed about true hospitality. So completely agree. Now, we've come to the quick fire questions of the show. So we have a few questions lined up for you.
Okay.
First things first, are you a sweet or salty?
Salty, always. I don't eat sugar.
I think I know this one, but you might surprise me. Spicy or pickled?
Oh, tough one. Tough one. I will say pickled by nurture.
Black or white truffle?
Always white.
Always white. Now, extra virgin olive oil or cheese?
Another tough one. Cheese dipped in extra virgin olive oil.
Oh, all right.
Can't live without either.
Who would you say are your top 3 culinary heroes? And they don't need to be chefs per se.
The owner of El Champagnet. Amazing job. Culinary heroes. Oh, that's a tough one. Look, I don't know. It's tricky. There are a lot of great people in the industry, and obviously I have to relate to Dubai, and I wouldn't want to name one in order to leave out others. Let me think about it.
It's a very diplomatic answer.
I'll get back to that
all right,
one.
No problem.
Listen, I also have customers in the industry.
Who currently, for where we are right now, what are your top 3 cuisines that you go to?
Yes, sure. Cuisines. Easy. Mediterranean. I would say the Mediterranean lifestyle and way of eating. I would eat like that every day. But Asia has a big impact. Had a big impact on me. I will have Thai food often. And I will never say no to a barbecue.
Oh my God. Love those answers. Now, before I come back to you on the culinary heroes.
Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, yes. Very good.
Anthony Bourdain.
Very good.
And it's not just about the food.
No, I mean, he is a legend and he's often mentioned on here. So you're in good company.
Traveled.
Yeah.
People. Yeah.
Stories.
Absolutely.
Now, from all of your years of experience in aviation or hospitality industry, what would you say was the funniest incident that you've seen or been involved in?
I love it when people get creative and when people think on the spot. And I'd have to go back to aviation because the resources are limited when you're in the sky. And there was an instance where I was flying to a particular African destination and somebody had apparently ordered a vegan meal. And people can get really funny on planes particularly. I don't know why, but the meal that was delivered was literally a dish with a piece of chicken on top.
Right.
There's a drumstick that just was on top there.
Okay.
And that person decided to make a big thing about it and complain and, big deal about it. And one of my colleagues was so frustrated to the point where they took the drumstick, put it in their pocket, pushed it back and said, now it's vegan. Problem solved.
And did the customer eat the...
Look, I think I removed myself from the situation at that point because I knew it was going south.
Oh, my God.
But problem solved. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, especially on a flight.
When you're on a flight, yeah. Look, it's not fair. I mean, sure, people pay for a ticket and yeah, but listen, that guy was my hero.
Tricky.
He fixed it.
On the spot.
Right there.
Wow. But also, I think about, I have a really amazing friend of mine, Michael, who was a bursar on Emirates, and he's now the training safety manager for all the new recruits.
Michael da Costa?
D'Souza.
D'Souza?
Yes.
I know him.
Yeah, so you know Michael very well.
Okay.
He also worked for me as a chef for some time, and
Wow.
he's amazing. And he tells me these, really crazy stories about what the industry has to go through generally, which countries or which flights when you go to, everyone's well behaved, which flights you go to when everyone is not very well behaved. Also the food, and you're right, especially when it comes to the food, people get so funny on flights. They get really, you either get fantastic customers who say nothing and they're just like, yes, or you get ones which from the off are going to kick off. So you also must have seen some crazy things.
Absolutely. And not only that, but I've met the most interesting people in my life on flights. The life stories, and again, stories. But it's, yes, it gets challenging, it gets frustrating, you're tired, but a lot of good came from my years flying. I've met people that I'm still friends with, that I work with. I've met people that I'm a sucker for rags to riches stories. I can tell you those stories for days now. And people fly, people talk.
But that's the other thing, is that when it comes to travel, we also advise and we talk with all of the, specifically with chefs, I will say, for this show. The reason why their careers took off is because they traveled from a super young age, so it does things to you. I agree. Now, what advice would you give to any truffle apprentices who really want to get into it? Doesn't matter whether they're chefs or whether they're housewives. What would be your advice for those people?
Don't be afraid of the ingredient. Try it. Experience it. As I said, there's so many truffle iterations out there. You don't have to go and spend $5,000 on a white truffle. But just cook. Just get creative. It's an ingredient. Just have fun. Serve it to people. Get feedback. Cook.
Love that. Now, what advice would you give to a 16-year-old Mihai Florescu?
Oh, yes. 16 years old.
Yes.
Leave your country earlier. Whatever your comfort is, leave earlier. You can do anything. And just go ahead and do it. Don't overthink it. Don't. You have time to recover when you're 16. You have time to make mistakes. So it doesn't matter if it's a financial mistake or a personal mistake. You still have a lot of time ahead of you. What I would change now is that I would do a lot more, a lot earlier.
If people wanted to find you on social media, what's the best place that they can do that?
Me personally, I'm not big on social media, but Truffle House is Truffle House DXB on social. I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I don't have a crazy profile and post pictures, and that's pretty.
But
boring.
Truffle House DXB is the place.
Truffle House DXB, yes, absolutely.
Now, I just want to have a quick recap of what we've gone through. Because I think it's fantastic. Your childhood with the pate, I think, is lovely. And I did the same.
I still have that today, by the way.
Nice, good, consistent. I like it. Types of food growing up, the education, how you left education to go to have that opportunity in Dubai, which I think is fantastic. How then truffles came into the picture. 2020, a turning point. To then the business beginning to flourish, key elements of the Truffle House and the experience of what you do there, which I think is also phenomenal. Then legitimacy with truffles, which I think is a very interesting story and very powerful. The biggest challenges when it comes to sourcing, also the different types of markets, the differences between the black and the white truffles for people to know, I think is really important. And then the future of the dining scene. And again, I couldn't agree with you more when it comes to focusing on ingredients rather than overall experience. Now, Mihai, I just wanted to say you are the first person we've ever had on the show when it comes to truffles. So really, it has been really insightful, encyclopedic almost. So I just wanted to say on behalf of the ChefJKP podcast and myself, thank you very, very much for taking the time to be here. I will be at the Truffle House doing all sorts of tastings, and I will make sure that everyone else goes there because it sounds fantastic. So thank you so, so much.